Look, let's just start by addressing the elephant in the room right off the bat. I don't want to waste any time. I'm missing a beard. Okay, I had a moment. I had a crazy mad moment, and I shaved it off, and I regret it. And I regret it. It's grown back, but my goodness, my chin is cold. Hello everyone. Hey Trekkies, my name is Michael, aka the TrekLad, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Discovery. Looking for answers in this new and dangerous frontier, the crew of the Discovery arrive at Earth, but 900 years later, the former home of the Federation, it's a very different place. We're going to be talking about Discovery's latest Season 3 episode, People of Earth, and joining me are some very, very awesome guests. Before we do get going, if you're joining us live, welcome. We hope you are well. Let us know what you thought about this latest episode of Discovery in the live chat. If you're watching this on replay, let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. If you haven't already, again, give this live stream a like, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by Christmas, and I have promised people that if I do succeed in that mission, I will do something insane. I will do something crazy. TBC. Also, want to support what I'm doing here? Consider becoming a fan on Patreon. You can find me there, patreon.com/TrekLad. A donation of £1 a month gets you access to my exclusive Discord community. And there's more. Donations, pledges of £3 and above gets you early access to everything that I'm doing. Right, plugs out the way. Let's get these guests on, because I'm joined by a bunch of people who are making their Let's Talk About Star Trek debuts this week. Every single person joining me this week is joining me for the first time, and I'm really excited to be talking to all of them. Let's welcome first Trek fan and loyal subject of the mighty Zod. What does that mean? We are joined by Tony D. Perez. How you doing, Tony?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. We also have cosmonaut and podcaster all the way from Uruguay. We have Lord Magnus. Hey there, Lord Magnus. How you doing?
Greeting, peoples of Earth.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. We also have creative Trekkie and community lead over at Ubisoft. We have Susie P. How you doing, Susie?
Hi, everybody.
We also have student and fan content creator Maria, also known as Miss Kira Nariz. How you doing, Maria?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. And last but very much not least, we have the award-winning performance artist, the genius behind the hit comedy performance, Damn It, Jim. I'm a comedian, not a doctor. She's awesome. The awesome Polly Esfer. How you doing, Polly?
I'm great. Hello from Toronto.
From Toronto. Nice. We've got a nice world mixed balance today. Thank you everybody so much for joining. Right, guys, let's get straight into this. What did we think about this latest episode of Discovery? Tony, let's get started with you. What did you think about People of Earth?
I mean, I loved it. It was probably the best episode so far of the season, in my opinion. It really got everything started. I feel like the first two episodes laid the foundation for the season as far as what we were going to expect. Basically, the crew of Discovery was going to basically be dumped into a universe that they didn't understand, basically, like being thrown into a deep pool. But I think they're getting their bearings and starting to understand things, and everyone's starting to work together synergy-wise.
Magnus, what did you enjoy the most about this latest episode?
I really, really love this episode. I gotta agree with Tony, it was the best of the season, and it's probably one of the best top 3 from the show so far. I really like that it's at the same time that it advances the overall season plot. It's also a pretty standalone episode, as much as this kind of show allows for. And we had not only a good advancement of the plot, we have nice emotional character moments, and also very nice whimsical character moments. Plus the action, everything gelled together perfectly, and with a great pacing from Trek Uber veteran Jonathan Frakes.
Susie, what were your initial thoughts on People of Earth, this latest episode?
I really enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed kind of the characterization around Burnham and just kind of exploring how much she's changed, and just kind of her different knowing glances and connection points with different characters who she has relationships with, kind of exploring and acknowledging that 1 year she's a different Burnham.
She's a very different Burnham. We will get into the development of our show's lead in a bit. Maria, hello. What did you think about this episode?
I loved it. I agree with Susie. I really liked the character dynamics that this episode started to explore, especially kind of the contrast between the way Saru does things and the way Philippa Georgiou does things, and how there's always that tension there between seeing exactly how things are going to play out.
And Polly, let us know what your thoughts were on this latest episode.
I watched it 3 times. I love rewatching, and obviously I wanted to make sure I was prepared for here. I thought it was fantastic. For me, this episode is like all about the theme of home. Like Michael Burnham's finally home on the Discovery, but it's not really her home anymore. And the Discovery goes to Earth. That's not home anymore. And then it's like, Earth isn't even part of the Federation anymore. So it's like everybody's kind of like this, what is home anymore? And it was just like basically what everyone else has said so far, just like the development between the characters, and even I know we'll talk about it, but the Senatal, the Trill is in a home. It's not in a Trill. It's in a human. So this is a whole, like, what is this home for this symbiont? So literally it was just like, that was like the whole thing for me. And it was just done brilliantly with every little scene and character development. It's just fantastic.
There's one thing that I forgot to mention before we did get into this. I usually forget most episodes, but again, if you're here and you're watching this episode yet, why are you here? Go away. Go watch the episode. Respectfully, go away and come back, and then you enjoy this a lot more, because
lots of spoilers.
Lots of spoilers. I mean, spoilers everywhere.
Gorn will destroy 2 light years of soft face.
I mean, that's a threat and a half. I mean, just go watch the episode, and the Gorn won't destroy anything. That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm with you guys. I mean, I will say the first time I watched this, I've now watched it twice. The first time I watched it, I was all over the place in terms of where I was placing this episode. At one point, I thought it was the best of the bunch, and then at one point, I thought it was the worst of the bunch. I have things that I didn't like about it, but I would say that the good massively outweighs the bad. This is a fine episode of Star Trek, and we will get into some of the more nitty gritty from the episode, but I do want to get us started with one thing that had me whooping on my couch, doing a bit of a Tom Cruise maybe. Captain Saru. Oh my god, it's about time. It's about time. We've got a Captain Saru. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Captain Saru. Tony, what were your thoughts on, the speed in which Saru has now been named captain, and how do you think Captain Saru takes us all forward?
He is definitely displaying leadership ability, I think. He's even starting to work with Georgiou. I remember in one scene she mentioned something about Michael learning a lot in the year that she was here without her crew, and she came up with a plan, and Georgiou was like, "Oh, I like this, Michael," and Saru was like, "All right, cool your jets. It's a good plan, but we have to." So he's very practical. He's very Starfleet. He always does the right thing. I think we saw that in the previous episode. He embodies like the Federation and Starfleet and everything that good that it stands for, I think.
I agree. I think that he's a quintessential Trekkian, is that a word? Trekkian character. Let's just go with it. Magnus, what do you think with regards to the dynamic between, and I'll ask everybody this question as well, because it's a big one, the new dynamic between Saru and Burnham, because we will talk more about Burnham in a bit, but Burnham arrives, Saru puts a lot of faith and a lot of trust in Burnham. Burnham kind of then just goes and does some sneaky stuff anyway. And then Saru's just kind of like, you know what, it's you, it's fine, it's okay, you're my first officer, it's all good. What do you think how do you think the dynamic between Saru and Burnham will play out? Do you think she's going to let him down a bunch more times?
I don't know if she's let him down as much as Saru has grown to be able to adapt to this kind of things. And we all know this is Michael. I mean, in the very first couple of episodes of the show, she did this. It was a Vulcan hello. But I think that she has grown in a year apart from the crew. She has evolved past her odd mixture of human and Vulcan upbringing, or at least got all that in a more rounded out package, surviving more or less on her own, or with Booker and Grudge, of course. And I think it's going to work out better. She's got to learn how to work with a crew again. And that's something we might see from now on. In any case, Saru is grown a lot over the course of the 2 past seasons, and it was about time he was captain in name as well as in function. And he is the first. I am very happy because he's the first alien captain of the hero ship in the show, and that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of echoing a sentiment from somebody in the live chat. Hello, Tucker Pants, owner of my favorite name of all time. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like Burnham kind of has forgotten how to operate within the chain of command. However, it does make sense given the fact that she's been away for a year. She's essentially been living the life of a smuggler / courier. So she's going to have some kind of learning to do to get back to, into the swing of things. Susie, in terms of Saru's development that Magnus mentioned, I mean, the first time we met Saru all the way back in the Vulcan Hello a few years ago, very timid, very easily scared. Now he is this inspirational leader type. And for me, it kind of makes sense. What do you think of Saru's character progression that we've seen so far?
I mean, I love it. I mean, he's a different Saru, right? I jokingly call him Saru 2.0 because the old Saru is gone. This is a completely different Saru. Everything that he went through last season to get through to where he is today, it's really interesting because, it was a bit of a rough adjustment for him at first. And so seeing where that has ended up in this, really wise and profound and measured and balanced, but no longer afraid, I think it's really interesting. Because I think also Burnham's change is also a lack of fear. And so I think they're both in completely new places than they were at the start of the series. And I mean, like Burnham said, it was always going to be him, right? He couldn't be more deserving as captain. So.
Absolutely. And Maria, with regards to Saru's changed relationship with Burnham, but also the fact that he is now this, I mean, he's been an inspirational leader for a long time, but now he is officially the guy, officially the captain. How do you think that his relationship with the crew will change? Do you think that there will be any relationship dynamics that will be changing as a result of this official kind of captain upgrade?
That's a good question. I think it seems like the crew is very much aware of his capabilities and has a lot of trust and faith in him. So, I mean, maybe if anything, they'll just be kind of more confident in Saru now that he's become the captain. I think it's interesting to see the way his dynamic with Michael slightly changes, because I don't think that he's necessarily kind of irritated with Michael at the beginning or confused about what she's going to do because he hasn't seen it before, but rather because he doesn't necessarily know how she's changed over the past year, and he feels that sort of uncertainty there about, is this a different person that I'm dealing with? Who are you really? But she kind of tries to dispel the notion that she's completely different, and rather to tell him, that she's just been through changes. She's seen things that she didn't expect to see, whatever those may be, but she still wants to become a part of this crew now that they've returned. She's willing to kind of bring them back into her life and hopefully have them bring her back into their lives.
We can hope so. I think there's going to be a lot of growing, and I think there's going to be some potential growing pains. I will say that I think Saru has got his work cut out with Burnham on one shoulder and Giorgio on the other. I mean, two very, very tough, strong women. But I think Saru's up to the task. He's also got Detmer to potentially deal with as well. But we'll talk about her in a second. Polly, let's round up this section with Saru. Saru is now essentially Starfleet's only captain in this new future, and really as a result the only person that is still upholding these Starfleet and these Federation kind of morals that we know of at the moment. How do you think that Saru is going to adapt, essentially being the sole representative of Starfleet and by extension the Federation?
Well, I think that kind of going what everybody was saying, especially Maria, I think that Saru isn't, he's like the opposite of Lorca, right? Like he basically Saru knows that he's the captain now, but it's the Discovery is not the Discovery without the crew. Like, he may be the person who everyone takes orders from, but they don't get anywhere without the crew. And so I think that dynamic really helps it a lot. And not that it wasn't, with Lorca or with even Pike, but even when like the first season, those first 2 episodes with Giorgio on the Shenzhou, it was just like you could kind of sense it was also kind of the same. It was the crew, but it was really tight knit and there was a lot of respect. And I think that it really is like a family with Saru as the head. And because they've been through so much, even from back in season 2, getting through the whole, mirror universe and Saru helping out like so much. He's earned so much respect from everyone on the ship, especially on the bridge. And he's proven himself, and especially everything he went through when we thought he was going to die. And then obviously now there's no fear, and he's helped, his sister and the other Kelpians. And I think that it just seems like everybody has gone through so much together already. And now they've gone through this wormhole. They're 900 plus years in the future. And that's just brought everyone even closer together. So I think that it's really, really just him and Giorgio that are going to be at each other's throats because Giorgio can't shut her mouth. But in a way, she's really great for Saru to help go. She's kind of being a bitch because that's what she is, but at the same time, in a way she's doing that, but it's also poking Saru to go, this, you can do this, like just do it. And so he's free to give the orders. It's I loved how it was him and Burnham coming back together, and each of them had gone through so much, and you could see that Saru was actually, he understood because Burnham's been alone, with Booker and Grudge for like a year, but he understands how much change you can go through when, left on your own. And I think that trying to figure out, how things were going to be, he was upset that she didn't confide in him what her plan was. But to end the episode standing beside Georgie's telescope was basically him just reinstating his love and his trust in her, like that. Just him putting it over there spoke volumes without him having to say anything. And because of that, that's why I think Burnham felt it was okay to say, I've been through a lot, and I'm like, in her own way, she was saying, I'm not okay, but I'm okay, and it's going to take time. And he was saying in his own way, I understand. And because of that, she was going, well, I would be honored to be your number one. And so I think having it right by Georgie's telescope, I was like crying at it. It was like, I thought that was such a moving scene, and just bringing everything full circle from the very start of the entire series. So I think that him and Burnham are going to be good, but Burnham and Giorgio, I think, are really going to bond together even more now because of what Burnham's been through.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what happens with Burnham and Giorgio, and I didn't really think about that potential dynamic. I know we had a little bit at the start of the episode with the kind of sideways glance. Maybe Giorgio's just trying to be cool and just like, yeah, I like her, but I'm just going to pretend like I don't, just kind of keeping a poker face. I do want to. I want to say that. I mean, I love Saru, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but not that I love Saru because it's fairly obvious. But Saru for me feels very much like an amalgamation of all of the classic characters, the classic captains. You know, he's got the adventurous spirit now of Archer, that kind of, you know, frontiersman. He's got the determination of Kirk, the wisdom of Pike. He's got the diplomacy of Picard. He's got the passion and commitment to family as Janeway. He's just kind of got it all in one package. He's got the savagery at times of Cisco. He's just perfect, and he's an alien. He's our first alien captain. So happy. Let's switch focus to the future Earth that we have seen. Our home, the world around us, 900 years in the future. It's unfortunately not too different from what we see today. It's become a little isolationist. Obviously, the episode has kind of echoed some of the real world political changes that we're currently and unfortunately seeing in our world right now. But Tony, what did you think of the Earth that we saw in this episode, and also the United Earth Defense Force? I hope I got that right. What did you think of the introduction of those guys, and by extension, did you like the introduction of Idira as well as a new character for the crew?
I did like that. One thing about Idira is, how did they let a 16-year-old like be an inspector? I feel like that's like an extremely like hardcore job for a 16-year-old to handle. Like when I was 16-year-old, I was working at a fast food restaurant, so I don't know how she managed to get in here. Maybe it was her spoiler alert, her Trill host. That's a great character. I really liked her. She had the perfect blend of humor and a little bit of sass, especially in the dynamic with Stamets, which I loved, and a little bit with Tilly. Sometimes Tilly and Stamets would sort of gang up on her, but she'd hold her own, which was pretty awesome. As far as the what do you call it? The Earth. I already forgot.
Earth Defense Force, I think.
Yeah. It sounds very militaristic. Basically, it's basically like Earth's military arm. I mean, I do like that character, Ndoya. She wasn't too harsh. I mean, she had a couple jabs to Saru, especially with the outdated technology and all that stuff, with the Hall screen or whatever. But towards the end, you could see that there was still some compassion in the future Earth, and in the willingness to work alongside the Titans, basically. I don't know what you call the colonists from Titan, but I call them Titans. So I did like both of those characters, and I feel like that I almost, when she gave Adira permission to stay on the ship, there seems like a little bit of espionage going there. Like, yeah, you can have permission to stay on the ship as long as you report back. And the last thing, basically, that last scene of Earth when right before the credits rolled, when they were pulling back, I mean, that Earth looks pretty baller. It was beautiful. It was like perfectly manicured. There was this huge yacht going right under the Golden Gate Bridge. It looked, everything about it looked beautiful. So I'm kind of glad that the future Earth isn't a total dumpster fire as far as that goes, like some of these apocalyptic movies. But I did appreciate that. That gave me some hope.
Magnus, same question to you, really. What did you think with regards to the new Earth that we found in this episode?
Well, Earth first, and then Adira, because I like the character. Earth totally pulled Brexit there, and I was afraid that with the more military approach and the planetary shield and the uniforms and the inspectors really reminded me of the telepath inspectors in Voyager. Remember those episodes?
Yeah.
Where there's such a ship. It was very, very it was quite facious in some respects, but then you can see that the layers are parting, and Ndoya has some nice under her. They're obviously afraid of what's going on, and when they force them to negotiate with the now obviously human Titan colonists, she doesn't resist. She just goes ahead and says, "I am willing to talk." And that is good. That is good, and it's good that the Earth is not a dumpster fire. Really, it was nice to see it again. I really like seeing Earth in Star Trek. It's a place we don't go that often. I know it's a Star Trek, and we have to go away, but I really like seeing it. And I like seeing it when it's not, for example, in the Deep Space Nine episodes where there's a coup. It's a little bit harsh to see it. I rather see it when it's not going, that stuff not going on. Then regarding Adira, I am affectionately nicknaming them Wesley Dax.
Yeah.
They remind me of that. And I like that Blue Del Barrio, the actor, I don't know, plays at the same time a young genius, but an unsure and uncertain teen. It's a little bit of what we had with Tilly, with a different dynamic. I really like the interplay she had with Stamets. I think it's going to be some kind of mentor-mentee relationship. And I do like that we have this Trill thing going on there. And I'm wondering if Adira sent the message 12 years ago as Admiral Tal, do we have some sort of Dune Alia Atreides situation where she was aware? Did she have this symbiont implanted when she was a child?
I think it was 2 years. It was 2 years. The
I
Admiral,
thought it was 12.
yeah, it was 2.
Oh, but my bad then.
No, it's
but
okay.
I do like the idea, and I do like that we're going to see the Trill experience play out in a different way. The preview from the next episode or shows that they're going to Trill pools, at least so we'll have something regarding that. And about the Air Defense Force, again, I really liked how the designers came up with the tech, because it's really difficult to come up with future tech 900 years beyond what we know of Star Trek, and at the same time make it looks like it's usable and approachable, not just completely wild.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it must be difficult to constantly come up with futuristic tech. I mean, and I'm glad that they kind of backtracked a little bit with some of that tech in from season 1 and season 2, because it now kind of makes sense to have all this holographic stuff up. But yeah, very, very good observations. Susie, with regards to the Earth Defense Force, now one of my theories is that the Earth that we've seen on the surface, we've seen that shot of San Francisco, and everything looks nice. But if it's isolationist, it could be very fragmented. Because if you look at our world is absolutely beautiful, but there's a lot of conflict going on, unfortunately, right now. Do you think the Earth Defense Force, or whatever they're called, do you think that they could potentially just make up one faction within the planet, kind of like AKA like what we saw in First Contact's past?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I hadn't given that much thought. I think it's certainly possible that it's, this kind of separate project that maybe it's United Earth Defense Force, right? So maybe different factions came together to support this kind of space military defense force. But how the government is organized on Earth, that's not really, that remains to be seen. That hasn't really been revealed. And so no, it's kind of interesting to see. For me, it reminded me a little bit of actually back in DS9 when there was suspicion of changelings on Earth, and then there was kind of a bit of a coup for the military to kind of take over, and so that's kind of the vibe that I got. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know if it's some kind of unified global project that they've all, or if it's actually some kind of authoritarian ruling force. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, it does remain to be seen. I don't think we've seen the last of the Earth Defense Force, and I do think that we're going to get a little bit of extra world building on the planet. I don't think we've seen the last of Earth. Maria, with regards to the Earth Defense Force's attitude, is very, very interesting because they were very happy to shoot without talking. Shoot first, ask questions, perhaps never. And obviously this episode does a fantastic job of having Discovery turn up and kind of flip that on its head, rightfully so. Put down the guns and have a conversation. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a wonderful, very Trekkian kind of concept, and it's one of the reasons why I love this episode so much. But what did you think about Discovery affecting the Earth Defense Force's logic and its ideology?
Oh, I loved that. I think that for me was one thing that gave this episode the real feeling of a quality Star Trek episode, hearkening to like the values of Starfleet and the importance of diplomacy. And I loved the big reveal where Wen takes off his mask and it's discovered that, oh, he's not an alien or someone completely unfamiliar to Captain Ndoye, but he's quite the opposite. He's a human like them. And I loved that moment of kind of empathy, perhaps, or compassion that Ndoye had, seeing his face and kind of how emaciated he was and tired looking and struggling. I loved that. And this is an aside, but on the subject of Adira, I do want to give shout out with my symbiont.
Love it.
I loved Adira's character too, from the kind of subterfuge they were doing at the beginning to try to get more time to stay on the ship, and the conversation that they had with Stamets. I think it's interesting because they were revealed kind of ahead of time to be a non-binary character, but the other characters are still using she, her pronouns to refer to Adira in this first episode in which they appeared. So I think maybe they haven't yet come out in a way, or they are just not disclosing that aspect of their identity because they're around unfamiliar people, and that might become a part of their story later on as they kind of come more to terms with who they are, and they're carrying the Trill symbiont in a sense can be a metaphor for their learning to better understand who they are. And I wonder if the appearance of Gray, the other new character, will tie into that, and that maybe Adira, being a human, will pass the symbiont on to Gray, and so that will cause, a bond to be strengthened between those two characters, or in essence, three characters. So I guess we'll have to see.
I think that's a really good point. And my theory on that is that I think that Adira does pass the symbiote over to Gray. And I think my theory is that as soon as the symbiote has been removed, then Adira gets to go through this storyline where they go through their own journey of discovery with regards to their own gender. Because at the moment, the symbiote is largely controlling most of the body's functions, most of the host's functions. And I think that it's going to be really interesting because we've seen it in Deep Space Nine when Jadzia loses her symbiote. She goes through a very difficult period. It's traumatic for her. So perhaps this is something that Adira is going to go through. Very interested to see how that happens. And I think that they can tell some really good, important stories that are really going to resonate with members of the fandom. I think it's very, very important. Polly, I'm going to give you the fun task of talking about the Titans, because we're going to call them the Titans, Magnus. The Titans, I mean, as Maria and Susie and Tony, as everybody's mentioned, is a very interesting development that we've seen. It makes sense. Again, the loss of communication, the loss of proximity, the loss of unity that has bound the Alpha Quadrant in the universe that we know. The Titans are, I mean, emaciated. They're not in good shape. They're in a terrible shape, and obviously they've been forced to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And I think that speaks volumes for the people that are in our society at the moment. Governments, without getting too political, governments are obviously causing a lot of problems at the moment for a lot of different communities. What did you take from the Titans' plight, and do you think that there are things that can be learned from that storyline plot?
I thought it was really great because you're wondering at first, it's like, oh, is this like another version of the Breen that's like shown up because of like the helmet and that. But I think it was just, I think we all need to just talk about how hilarious it was when Georgiou just like kicked him. So that she's like, diplomacy is like too slow, and then just rips his like helmet off, and then they're all like, oh, because it's just like it's also why this whole dynamic with Georgiou is going to be so interesting and fun 900 years in the future, because like, everybody else is adapting and she's like, nope, she's still the same. So, but her doing that helps open this door, and that's when Adoya is just like, oh, you're human. And it was just, I can just imagine how shocked, like a whole ripple through her body of this. It's just interesting. We're obviously going to have to like learn more backstory of, because I want us to go back to Earth, but how did it get to this place? Like there's going to be a lot more that's coming up because everything is just splintered now. But the fact that how did it just turn so much from a ship coming from Titan to ask for help, just immediately shooting it down? It was just like, we're missing something huge. So it's like, this is something else that's going to like eventually turn up that we'll discover. I loved when Adoyu said, I'm open to like start negotiating, and then when Mr. Titan turned and said, as am I, and the camera cuts to I get very emotional with Star Trek, and the camera cuts to Saru and Burnham, and then you just heard the theme like coming up, and then bum, 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 and it was just like one of the most it was just this huge Star Trek moment. It was very Discovery. It was also very original series. Like a lot of the things that happened in this episode really took you back to how it all started and how it really proves. And I know we're not going to get political. I know that a lot of people say politics has no place in Star Trek. Politics has always been in Star Trek from back in the original series. And this is so this episode really hammered it home in a way, just showing you they've come all this way and it's Earth, but like what's happened, what caused like, stuff collapsed. You've still got like Starfleet there, and you've got this defense fund. It must be, I think it's something that's like controlling the whole planet, because the whole planet is like guarded, but it's just like, we want that backstory. And it's just like, how did society, it's like in Deep Space Nine, when the episodes with the Bell riots, like how did society collapse like that? And that's 4 years away, really. But that's really what, like the Bell riots episode in Deep Space Nine was really showing a lot of what's happening in the world and, in America as well right now. But this, it's just funny how all of these episodes were written and filmed months and months and months and months ago, and it's starting to air now. And these episodes, especially this one, the very last episode right before the election, to have pretty much the most like political episode we've had so far in Discovery, I thought was just this was meant to be. This was like real timing. And I think this episode, I hope it doesn't turn a lot of people off of Discovery because of like everything that it covered in it. But I really hope it wakes people up to understand that it's not just a sci-fi show, and it's not, this, that, or the other. It's just like, this is something that reminds us that we all need to unite. We are all one federation, even though it's not in the series. Like, if we work together, then we can make the world and the universe a better place. So it's, like I said, I just felt so much about the theme of home and unity. And I'm so excited to see where the rest of this, what else we learn and where we go in the rest of season 3, because this is like really, it gave the the chance, so far into the future to create brand new. There's no canon. It's just brand new stuff. And I think that no matter what happens, it is always going to tie back to everything we've seen in the past, 50 plus years of Star Trek. And I think it's fantastic. And showing these differences, you're always going to have people fighting or seeing this as somebody who's an enemy. And it's no, it's human. It's literally, the writing was so perfect and just making you wake up and really take a look at what's staring you in the face.
I always like to say that if we were just 10% more Star Trek, everybody on the planet, if everybody on the planet was 10% more Star Trek, we'd get to Star Trek. I truly believe that. I think if we're just a little bit nicer to each other and we shut up and listen a little bit more, I think we get there. Very, very good points. Thank you very much, Polly. Thank you very much, everybody. Look, let's try. I mean, if you have nothing to say, talk more about what you loved. But this is the segment where we talk about what we perhaps didn't like about this episode so much. I've got some points. Got a book here with. No, I'm joking. I've not read that much. But I do have some things to say. But let's start off with you, Tony. What did you not like so much with this episode? Is there anything that you would change?
There was not enough Grumpy, the cat. I wish he was in more of the episodes. We did a couple. At first, in my first viewing, I didn't see any sightings of him, but later on, I saw him on the ship. I think once. That's bad. There's still a lot of unanswered stuff. I think, what happened to the Klingons? Where are the Romulans? All that stuff. They're still around, but you haven't seen any of them. It seems like there's still a big mystery around the burn. I guess that's not really a bad thing I don't like about it. There's still a lot of mystery that's going to be revealed in the rest of the season, but as far as things I didn't like, there's a couple of weapon stuff that they set up in the previous seasons, like the sphere data that they got from the sphere. I think it was in the second season. It's like a galactic Wikipedia. Whenever they can't explain anything, they refer to the sphere data, and it's got information from that no other Trek series knew, because apparently it was buried in Federation archives and no one can find them now. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that the writers are probably just going to use sphere data to kind of write themselves out of certain. It's going to be lots of little plot contrivances. It's fine. Sphere data. It's fine.
It's like memory alpha.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be alpha.
There we go. Magnus, what didn't you like about this episode, if anything?
About the episode itself, I pretty much liked everything. My only point of contention is not for the episode itself. It's Giorgio. I know everybody is happy to have her being the devil on Saru's shoulder, but I do not want to forget that this is a genocidal tyrant. This is worse than Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars, because she ate sentient people.
She ate Saru.
Yeah, she ate Saru. And I don't. And I was afraid she was going to eat Linus in the previous episode. and I don't like it that she's working along the crew like she's one of the guys and everything. I just wish there's some sort of magic mushroom trick to switch her mind around with the original Giorgio. I don't think it's going to happen. I know that she will not be part of the show because she's going to go on to the spinoff in Section 31 if it does happen. But yeah, it's the only thing that makes me go, yeah, that's a genocidal tyrant right there. It's the worst character in terms of, I love Michelle Yeoh. And she's a great actress, and it's a pleasure to see her kick ass in the show. But every time she's on screen, I'm reminded of that. It's the only thing I got. The episode itself, I think it was really round out.
Well, I'm with you, Magnus, on this one. I absolutely love Michelle Yeoh. I don't think Star Trek really deserves an actor of the caliber of of Michelle Yeoh. She's incredible. She's fabulous. I remember watching her for the first time as a 10-year-old, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I was like, whoa, she's awesome. So I love her. Don't like Giorgio. Don't like her at all. She should be in the brig. She should 1000% be in the brig. She was responsible for the resolution of this episode, so we'll give her that. But yeah, she's a galactic tyrant. She ate Saru in the Mirror Universe. I'm just hoping at this point that perhaps Giorgio's original persona from the normal universe, is perhaps in the sphere data. There we go. Maybe that's how we fix it. There we go.
And magic mushroom.
Susie, same question to you. Is there anything in this episode that you didn't like so much?
All right, I'm gonna squeeze in one more thing I liked first, and then I'm gonna give a real lame nitpicky thing I didn't like. So one more thing I liked is I really, and it was something actually that Tony said when he introed himself that reminded me of it. It was, I wrote it in my notes as Adira's theme. I'm not somebody who usually notices score, but in that scene where Stamets finds her, I don't know if she was in the Jeffrey Stubes or wherever she was, there was this really whimsical music playing, which I just really, really loved, and I hope that we hear Adira's theme again. That's one thing I loved that I didn't get to mention. And then the one thing I didn't like, and I noticed it actually when I tried to rewatch as much of it as possible before the show. I only got about 3/4 of the way through. Is actually the United Earth Defense Force uniforms. I felt like they were too similar to the Discovery uniforms. They're like the exact same color. You know what I mean? There's like no variance. I was like, how coincidental that the designers 1,000 years later came out with like nearly identical uniforms in the same color as the Starfleet of 1,000 years prior. So that was my only tiny little like design nitpick on this episode. Otherwise, I obviously love the episode, and I'm not gonna, yeah.
Yeah, I do think that the Earth Defense Force uniforms, they remind me a lot of what we saw in Babylon 5. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but a very, very, very kind of weird, like angled collars and things like that. Yeah, very zigzaggy, very Babylon 5 for some reason. I don't know. It's just maybe it's just me. Maria, is there anything from this episode that you didn't like so much?
I guess one thing that I'm just still wondering about, and I know that this is basically a plot device, but how can no one know what happened to the Federation? I don't understand this. Somebody has to know. Someone has to have at least an inkling of what occurred. And I think it's interesting that in the previous episode we hear I can't remember what's his name, the villain.
When?
No. Previous
episode. Western guy.
Yes.
The smuggler.
Yes, him. Anyway, he refers to the Vidraish as this sort of questionable force. And so it makes me think, that's probably the Federation. And they've just turned into this kind of morally gray or maybe even malintended force out there in the universe. But how can no one know that occurred is what's really Zara. Okay, yes, thank you. How can no one know how that developed at all? Seems a little bit strange to me.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, my theory, I'm going to share my theory with you guys, and it kind of lends itself to what Polly was talking about earlier. I think that there's an opportunity to explore the downfall of the Federation, albeit, nearly 1,000 years earlier with Picard season 2 and maybe subsequent seasons, because I think what we're seeing in Picard is a bit of a negative change in attitude from Starfleet, from the Federation. And I think that over 100 or so years, or maybe more, we could see the Federation kind of merge into this more morally ambiguous kind of Vidraish. So very, very interesting to see not only what we find out in the rest of Discovery, but perhaps what we could potentially find out if Picard decides to sow some of those seeds. Very, very interesting. We will see. Polly, would you change anything?
Not really. Like Magnus, I loved this episode. but there was so much, and they did a really good job with like covering everything. Not everything is like wrapped up, at the end of the episode, but enough of it is to like have it be a complete episode. The only thing is I'm really, really, really anxious to find out what's happening with Detmer. I'm really worried about Detmer, and so it was just another episode where it's just like, is she not getting help? So my anxiety was just like, I need to hug her. I need to make sure she's okay. And like when she was, at the console, and then Saru gave the order, to fire, and she was just like, but we haven't recovered yet. We don't know what they're going to like hit us with. And it was like her talking, that like those lines was her talking about like the ship and what she can control from her station. But that's also like totally a cry for help from her. Like I haven't recovered yet. Like there's something. So I know there's a lot of speculation right now. It's like some people are saying it's PTSD, or is it control? There's some people saying that there might be like a bit of Arium that's like gone into her. And so all of this stuff, I just need to make sure she's okay. So it really didn't take away anything from the episode, but it's just like, I have to wait another week to make sure she's okay. So that's literally just like a personal thing, because I think she's great. And so I just, other than that, it's just like, I thought everything was like so well done. And I want to see Book again. Like Book has to come. We're going to see him again for sure.
Shirtless.
But I love that he got a rash from the uniform. And that when he was leaving, there was no, he's leaving and then he just turns and he does that wink. He's really good at that wink. That's all.
He's he's a good looking dude. He's a good looking dude, and I'm sure we'll see more of it. I guess one thing that I didn't really like from this episode was the fact that they've kind of gone to this will they won't they dynamic between Burnham and Book. It's like we know, guys, it's the worst kept secret on the show. We've even seen it in the trailers that they start smooching. They like each other. They're giving each other the kissy eyes. They're gonna hook up, and Grunge is gonna be in some very awkward situations. That cat is gonna see some things. But yeah, there's just one thing. I guess the only, with regards to Detmer, is I feel like we as the audience and that character are going to really have a cathartic moment when it comes to talking about what she is going through. I really hope to God it's not Control. I never, if I ever see Control again, I'm turning the TV off. I'm just saying that right now. Never want to see Control again. But I think Star Trek, a lot of people sometimes forget this. Not everybody, but there are some people, mainly detractors of the show, this current show, seem to forget that Star Trek isn't just about exploring strange new worlds. We also explore ourselves, the people that we are, the things within. It's exploring the space outside and the space within. And I think that the show, for me, is always strongest when it deals with relationships. It deals with attitudes and characteristics that make us who we are. And I think that there are really good opportunities to tell stories with Adira, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, and as what myself and Maria were talking about, but also with Detmer. I think that there's a huge opportunity, there's huge scope for us to explore mental health concerns, because it's a big part of our society today, and I want to see it, and I hope that we do see it, and I think we are. I will say that I think one thing that Discovery is doing well at the moment, admittedly with 3 episodes in, it could fall off the cart. But it's not raising too many mysteries at the moment. It is kind of keeping it manageable. And I think that we're going to get comfortable resolution on everything that we're seeing so far. I hope the show doesn't chuck too many more mysteries at us, too many more plot threads, because when the show gets overly contrived, I think it kind of falls apart. But we will see. Guys, let's get some final thoughts and star ratings. So I'm going to chuck a whole load of stuff at you because we're pretty much almost out of time. Tony, kick us off. Final thoughts, sum up this episode. Give it a Delta rating out of 5. So Delta Shields out of 5. And also, where can you be found on the internet, sir?
Right off the bat, I give it a 4.5 Delta Shields out of 5. I enjoyed it that much. before I give you my details, one of my favorite moment I think of the show was when they just engaged the spore drive and they were going to Earth, and they talked to Ndoye and she told them to get the hell out of there. Saru kind of looks at Burnham, and Burnham gives him a look like I had no idea she was they were going to do this to us. So that was a great moment. It was sort of like she rolled her eyes and sort of like put her head on her shoulder, but 4.5. I got my Twitter handle on the stream here. It's at Tony D Pires, Pires, and follow me.
Awesome.
Talk about tech stuff too.
Awesome, cool. Susie, same to you. Sum up your thoughts for People of Earth. Give it a Delta Shield rating out of 5, and where can you be found on the interwebs?
I love the episode. I was crying. I think I wrote it down 3 minutes and 48 seconds in the scene where they're all hugging each other. I loved meeting Adira. I can't wait to get to know them more and to see their dynamic develop with Stamets and also Tilly. It's 4.5 out of 5 for me also, like Tony. I thought it was a really, really excellent episode. And yeah, I'm Real Susie P on Twitter.
Awesome. Maria, same to you.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 4 for now, just because we haven't seen so many episodes yet this season that I'm waiting to see, are they going to raise the bar significantly from this, or is this going to turn out to be, one of the best episodes? And I'm going to give a shout out to the tree, the Starfleet Academy tree that has been surviving. Yes, it's still there. Boothby took great care of it, it seems. It's been there for so long, and it's enormous now. And I love the moment where they were just all sitting under the tree and reminiscing about their younger years there, which were so long ago. I'm Miss Kieran Reese on Twitter. You can see it right there next to my name. And yeah, I talk about Star Trek too, so come follow me if you like.
Amazing. Polly, same to you. Thoughts, Delta Shield rating, and give us, what are you currently working on as well?
I will give this also 4.5 Delta Shield. I thought it was excellent. I actually didn't think anything could top the first episode of season 3, and then this came along, and I was just like, wow. Everything that all of us have talked about today, you can hear how awesome this episode was, and it really does. It does bring a sense of home for me and unity, and especially like I said right before the election. I'm in Canada, but I mean it affects us all. It just really made me feel like in episode 1, like there's a sense of hope that's still out there. And just everything about the episode was so wonderful. On Twitter, I am at Polyester Gems. On Instagram, I'm at Pollywood Productions. I'm on Facebook. I have a performer page. You can find me facebook.com/dammitjimpolyester. Right now, you mentioned my show at the start. My show, Damn It Jim, I'm a Comedian, Not a Doctor, is my one-woman show. All of my one-woman shows are autobiographical. This is about how Star Trek has helped me in my journey as a recovering alcoholic. And it's available right now virtually. It's a recorded performance from the Ottawa Fringe last year. It's available through the Hartford Fringe Festival until November 9th, so you still have time to see it. If you go to hartfordfringefestival.org, you can find out all about the, there's 21 shows in the Fringe. I'm one of them. Tickets are $10. Right now, it's just my message in the show is just, it's always, my message in the show is about hope. There's a lot of Star Wars in my show as well. So it's just like, my message is hope, and seeing this season of Discovery so far be about hope as well, it literally just warms my heart. And so if I can say one more thing, there was a line that I wrote down near the start of the episode that Burnham said that literally wraps up everything for me. She says, "We didn't give everything for this version of the future, and I'll be damned if I let it stand." And I just want to say, you don't want to make it political, but people vote. We're all with you. in America. Not all of us are there, but we are all with you. We are one federation, and we can take care of each other and fight back and reclaim hope and tolerance and love.
Absolutely. Vote for hope, guys. Vote for hope. If you can, vote for hope. Polly, thank you so much. What I'll do is I'll put a link to your show. I need to check it out. And if you're watching this, I hear nothing but amazing things about it. So I'll put a link in the show description. Thank you so much for joining. Magnus, wrap us up.
Yes.
Thoughts on the episode, star rating, and where can you be found on the internet, sir?
I'm going to go with a 4.5 as well. It's pretty good, very good episode. For it to be a 5 would have to fall in with my personal favorites of the whole franchise. I don't know that yet. I don't think so, but it was a pretty good episode. I do like everything that we said about the character moments and how from second half of season 2 up to now, they've been giving Detmer and Owasek and all the other characters their moments to shine and to interact, Bryce and Reese, and we get to see them interact like a family, like the Deep Space Nine crew did, for example, or the Voyager one. So I really like the idea that with a fixed showrunner for this season and for the second half of season 2, we will get past the turmoil of the first season and a half, where they were changing showrunners like they're changing underwear. And that the episode was very Trekian. The philosophy was very TOS and TNG. So I think it was a very good one on that point. And people can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Lord Magnuson. You can see it right there. And from there, you can get my link to my other stuff. Like, you can have me on Facebook if you want. And if you speak Spanish or you want to practice, I have a weekly podcast, which is about science fiction, comics, and everything. We just reviewed the first season of Lower Decks, and in January we will review the third season of Discovery. We cannot believe that we are reviewing a new Star Trek season of a different show every couple of months. That is incredible. And of course, we do a lot of Star Wars stuff as well, and everything around there. And if you follow me on Twitter, you will see tweets in English and Spanish about comic books, role-playing games, Star Trek, Star Wars, politics, and nerdy stuff. Use it, translate, tweet, ask me stuff. It's very nice to be part of the TrekLad community, and I'm looking forward to discussing another episode in the future.
Amazing. Well, yeah.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a real treat. Thank you so much for joining. And to everybody, before we do go, I'll give you my thoughts on this episode. I am a tough critic. I don't give half stars, half Delta shields, unfortunately. This episode is a 3 for me. It's solid. There were things that I didn't like, but like I said at the beginning, more good than bad. I will say that season 3 so far, I think, is the strongest that we've seen from Discovery to date. And I'm very excited and very optimistic about this show's future. I really am looking forward to seeing how this season progresses and learning more about this incredible, brave new future. So there are my thoughts. Tony D. Perez, thank you for joining. Real Susie P, thank you for joining. Maria, aka Miss Kira Nerys, thank you for joining. Polyester, you amazing legend. Thank you so much for joining. And Lord Magnus, thank you for joining as well. Well, guys, that's it. That's another episode of Let's Talk About Discovery wrapped up. Do join us again next week, 9 p.m. GMT. We've changed the clocks recently. I don't know if my friends across the pond are going to be changing. I know they've got daylight savings coming up, so it might be 4 in the east again, but it might be 5 in the east. I will go to World Travel Buddy and find out, and I will let you know. But we will be back regardless next Friday, where we talk about episode 4. I do hope you can join. Like I said, if you haven't done so already, please consider liking this live stream and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. My name is Michael, aka the TrekLad. You guys have been awesome, and I will see you back next week. Live long and prosper. With a beard.